Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of AutoCentral. My name is George Mienie, and I'm joined as usual by none other than Wandile Sishi. How's it, Wandile?
Hey George, how are you? In the house, actually in the house this time. So.
Actually in the house this time. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Wendy and I have decided to do the show from our respective homes today because there has been, an instance of contact with COVID, and we'd rather be safe than sorry. So none of the two of us have got COVID.
Everyone's healthy though.
Yeah, everyone's healthy, but there has been an instance of contact with somebody with COVID, and we wouldn't in the team that puts the show together, and we don't want to put anybody at risk. So it's really just precautionary and doing the right thing. So hopefully everybody's healthy and safe, and you're listening to another episode of AutoCentral as usual. And if you want to know what today's episode is about, it is about is 2021 the perfect time to buy a new car or a new used car for that matter, and how to get the best bang for your buck. And later on in the segment, we will review South Africa's cheapest car, which is the Bajaj Qute. Did I say that right, Wandi? Bajaj Qute.
I think that's the pronunciation. Yeah,
I think so. We'll find out from our very own Chad Lückhoff whether that pronunciation is right a little bit later on. And then lastly, as always, we'll review some of your questions sent through our Ask AutoTrader platform. But let's get going, Wendy. Where can listeners find the show?
So we're streaming live every single Monday at 9 a.m. on cliffcentral.com. But that's just an audio feed. So if you want to see our faces, we're also on the AutoTrader SA YouTube channel. And if you're watching that, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and comment. We'd like to hear what you guys think about the show. And lastly, if you just want to stream the show and listen to us at your convenience, you can also find us on Spotify, iTunes Music, and many other streaming platforms. So we're basically everywhere.
Exactly. We're basically everywhere. So go and smash that subscribe, like button, comment, go crazy. Yeah. We want to hear from you. And the show is growing week on week on week, and we're very, very proud that that's happening. But today's episode, we're coining the pricing episode. And as I said in the beginning, is 2021 really the right time to buy a new or a new used car? And how do you get your bang for your buck? Because 2020 saw the disruption of the South African economy. We've been saying that for a long time now. Global coronavirus has had a crippling effect on economies worldwide. And while we think it's probably far from over, especially in South Africa, things are looking positive. Many forms of relief have been put in place and have come about. For example, low interest rates, small business tax breaks and relief funds, and, has created potentially a much better time to buy a car. So today, Wendy and I will unpack, is it a good time to buy your next car? And we're coining this the pricing episode. So Wendy, what's your opinion on this?
Like pretty much every single question that we always asked or try and answer, at least in the show, I think it depends. It completely depends on your financial position and how it's impacted you. I think for a lot of people who had been saving, now may be a great time to buy a car, but for others, it may not be. So that's why the research aspect is just so important with regards to, if it's right for you. It could be right for you.
It could be right for you, yes. So let's unpack some of those. And, my thoughts on the matter, I think it's the perfect time to buy a car, to be honest, as long as you adhere to some kind of criteria, rules, which we'll unpack in a second. And ultimately...
Are these like secrets you're going to be giving us today with regards to why it's perfect?
Well, I haven't pre-prepared secrets. I think we've been speaking about these secrets for a long time. So I don't think it's any secret, but we're going to give some structure to it today. And ultimately, there's some good deals on financing and some good offers on 1-year-old models at the moment. Yeah. So, getting right into it, it's definitely cheaper to borrow money to buy a car at the moment. I mean, what do you say, Wendy? Is it like, do you find it definitely cheaper?
I definitely believe it is definitely cheaper to borrow money to find a car. I actually did a big purchase during the early stages of COVID, and I got a great deal on that purchase because of the interest rates being so low. And if you can lock that deal, lock in that interest rate, for instance, or that repayment rate, it could, in the long term, save you a lot of debt as well. So yeah, I agree with that.
Well, Wandile agrees with that, but I suppose the risk there, Wandile, is more than likely, if you're going to get a good deal that is on the limit of what you can afford based on the current 7% interest rate. What if that interest rate goes up in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
And that's the problem, yeah. That's definitely the scary bit. The thing that I purchased, I was able to lock it in.
Oh, did you get
the entire contract?
Did you get a fixed interest rate?
I got a fixed rate, yeah.
But usually when you ask for a fixed interest rate, they give you a higher rate.
I did that at the very end. So basically, because of how banks work, they all battled for the best rate. And then the reason why I went with the bank that I went with is because I had asked them, now lock that in. And they were just like, hey man, if you kind of played the system, so good for you. We'll lock it in for you.
There you go. So some advice from Wendy. Once you get your finance deals on the table, ask all of the banks that give you those finance deals. So most of them come back with a similar deal. Ask the bank to lock in the interest rate, because then you won't suffer from an increasing repayment at some point down the line when the economy bounces back. And then secondly, saving on savings. I think there's some savings on older models, not 1-year-old models, but maybe older than 1-year-old models. I mean, do you think there's some savings on buying an older car?
I think even with 1-year-old models, I mean, we've done the research ourselves and we found that, well, I think it was specific to this one body type, which was Bucky's. We found that 1-year-old models, you kind of save almost 100,000 Rand on some specific models, which is insane. It's an insane saving to go for. Essentially, it's a used car, but it's a bit older than the latest one, but it's still fairly new. So kind of do the research, and you'll find that there's these little secret nuggets everywhere that you can kind of use to your advantage.
I suppose quite often people rush into the finance deal and not the finance deal, rush into buying a car because it's an emotional purchase.
It's buying a car, yeah.
You're kind of excited, you want to get your hands on it, and then you don't really look and scrutinize properly.
Yeah, I mean, even when we talk about it, right, we always give advice and stuff, but I'm definitely a victim of some of that as well. When you're going to get a new toy, you want to play with it as fast as possible, and sometimes you let the emotional sort of, aspects of ownership cloud the potential savings that you'll make.
Yeah.
So be careful.
Yeah, just be careful. I think let your head lead, not your heart. And then, I mean, are there better finance options on the table besides the interest rate? What other things can people get from banks that could potentially help get your next new used car?
I've kind of seen lots of dealerships getting really creative with how they can get people to buy cars. So one of the things that I've seen is these zero deposit deals. So, you don't need the deposit for you to get a lower rate. They'll kind of say zero deposit rates, and you can still get the car at a decent rate at least. There's other things that have happened is just there's a lot more savings that dealerships are doing. Cashback options. There's just so many different ways that dealerships as well as automotive companies who are selling new cars are providing consumers now. And we don't know when it's going to end, right? That's kind of the where you'll win is you don't know when it's going to end. So now might be the time to kind of take advantage of those.
And then I suppose there would be some price discounting on on vehicles that have ended their useful production life, where manufacturers stop making that particular model. I mean, there could be some savings there, right?
I don't know. I think you would have to unpack that one for me, because I'm trying to see. An example would be like what? Like I think like the Land Cruiser 200, for instance. I think that's a model that's about to be discontinued. Are you saying that those models potentially become cheaper because they've stopped?
Well, I suppose it depends. I mean, if it's a highly popular car, you're going to get appreciation in the price. But if it's not such a popular car and it's been discontinued, chances are you're going to get a lower price versus
specifically if they're kind of like replacing that model.
Exactly.
With something that's a bit different. Okay, I see. But to your point, if it's a vehicle that's being discontinued and it's, has some sort of cult following, it's going to get a bit more expensive.
I mean, you look at the launch of the C-Class many years ago.
Yeah.
And you couldn't buy the car secondhand for cheaper than you buy the new car. So the new car, buying a new C-Class was actually cheaper than buying a secondhand C-Class.
Wow. That's before my time.
when the C-Class launched, I think it was back in 2000. When was it? Probably 2002, 2001, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's quite interesting. I think
people were buying people were buying new C-Classes and then flipping them for a profit in the secondhand market.
What was that? Why? Just because they were so popular? Because you had to wait for a new one to arrive? What was
the major change between the shapes and how beautiful the new C-Class looked, and the features? It just was a totally different car. For some reason, the consumers bit onto that and just loved the C-Class. Was that dolphin-shaped C-Class that used to exist? And
what's that car in Russia? There's a car in Russia that's very similar. Everyone has it. I can't remember what it's called, but literally, I think they try to make a new version of it, and people just didn't bite into it. They just wanted to, have the old one.
Well, I mean, I suppose that's when they make a crappy car after the last one was so popular. But I suppose they could, there's swings and roundabouts here. If you find a really good car that's not as popular, you could get a good deal when that car runs its course in terms of manufacture. And then new cars coming out.
That's definitely a reason.
But they want to promote their new models or facelifts, and you could get a good deal on a new model car if the OEM gives incentives for buying stimulation, right?
Yeah, I mean, on top of that, though, I think another thing, the fact that there's new cars coming out is an exciting reason, or a reason for you to consider buying a car in the first place. There's lots of cars that have come out this year, which I have personally been waiting for a long time, and that's definitely going to stimulate some people who were potentially holding off on buying a car to do so.
Well, so how do you ensure that you're not overcommitting when you buy a car? What are the pointers we can discuss around not overcommitting? What are the things we can do?
So if you want to ensure that you aren't overcommitting, I think there's 5 things which, the first one I think you should always consider, with yourself, is if you can actually afford to buy a new car. This kind of goes back to your conversation of not buying with your heart, with your emotions or your heart, and rather your mind. So the first thing is obviously just calculate what you can afford, and then start subtracting some of the costs that you are associated with ownership, as well as the cost that you have on your day-to-day. A lot of people make that mistake of just buying and not really understanding what is the cost of ownership.
Yeah, the cost of ownership is a big deal. So what are some of the practical things I suppose people can do is firstly establish your affordability. Make sure you can afford the car from an income point of view, net income point of view, and prioritize the things that matter. I mean, I know that I've heard some people say, "Oh, you can drive your car, you can't drive your house." But at the end of the day, you can also sleep in your car, I guess.
I think I said that today.
Did you? Oh, okay.
I think I was telling somebody that today.
You can drive your car, you can't drive your house. But you can live in your house. Can you live in your car? I'm not sure. Can you shower in your car? You can stand outside in the rain, I guess. So, prioritize the right things: rent, food, communication, insurance, all those things, and then think about the repayment on the car. Because affordability is probably one of the biggest things, and people don't take into account the other things involved in owning a car.
Definitely. I think the second thing to definitely consider is the fact that the car that you see new isn't necessarily the car that you can afford. So there's lots of options that are packaged with new cars specifically now. So just be aware that extras aren't free. They're options. They're options that you have to pay for ultimately. So just be careful that you can kind of, afford the spec that you want, and not. Well,
I suppose you're always going to go for a test drive in the higher spec vehicle, and then when you buy the base model, you're going to have to add all those optional extras. So just be aware of the optional extras, and before getting into debt with the car, settle some other debt if you can first. Clothing accounts, overdrafts, home loans, and let your credit record kind of show that, because you might get a better finance deal if you've got a better credit record, right?
100%. I think it's that was what helped me in my situation that I was speaking of earlier, is the fact that some banks they want to lend people money. That's how they make a large portion of their money, is by lending. It's that long-term benefits that they get from it. So the better you are at paying your accounts on time, the better your credit score is, and the more you could potentially afford. And I say afford in inverted commas because it is debt. So don't forget that point.
Exactly. And then I suppose finally, if you have a trade-in, just because you want to buy another car with your heart, don't forget that your current trade-in has value, and don't be done in. Try and get multiple quotes on your car that you want to trade in, or the car that you have to sell. There is the very nice feature to try and get a very high level kind of range of what your car's worth on autotrader.co.za. If you go to valuation, you'll see, you'll get a retail value for your car. And remember that dealerships make profit on cars. So you're not going to get the retail value from a dealer, but it gives you an indication of what the car could sell for in the consumer market.
100%. I think the last thing to add, if there's still some time in this segment, is used cars are a gem. If you're looking for any car, do not buy anything before you go and look on the used car space, because there are some amazing deals that you can find there.
Exactly.
I just wanted to add that point. Every single car that I've ever owned has been used because I've just been able to save a lot more than when I had to get, a new car.
You can get a better spec car for the same price. All right, 100%. So I suppose that brings us to the part where we have our expert journalist, Chad Lückhoff, joining us in a second to review South Africa's cheapest car and the polarising 2021 Bajaj Qute. And Chad Lückhoff does some amazing videos, and you can go and see his stuff on autotrader.co.za. Welcome, Chad, and nice to have you back. Did I say the name Bajaj Qute correctly?
Yeah, I believe that's how they pronounce it, Bajaj Qute. Yeah, thanks very much for having me. Yeah.
No, you're most welcome. What on earth have you got in that background?
That is the Audi R8.
Is that a virtual background, or are you actually in the studio with that car?
No, it is actually that vehicle. So from one complete end of the spectrum to the other. Although not really, because the Bajaj Qute actually isn't a car.
That's true. I didn't expect
that. No, technically, no, it really isn't. It's not. It's listed as a quadricycle, so it's technically not a car. Yeah. Which means that it's also exempt from certain sort of taxes and testing purposes, and that it's registered as a beach buggy.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
So beach buggies on cars then as well. Is that what you're saying?
That's on the basis of being a kit car. And the Bajaj falls into under a particular weight, stripped down. So, I mean, it's not needing doors. Seatbelts are largely optional in those sort of vehicles. It's almost a recreational vehicle classification. But the Bajaj Qute is actually the furthest thing from a recreational vehicle.
Okay, so this car took the country by storm. Sorry, Wendy. This car took the country by storm, and now you're starting to make me question the safety, because is this car allowed on our highways?
It's not allowed on. It technically is allowed on the highways because there's only a stipulation as to engine CCs. There's no real stipulation. It needs to be able to do 40 kilometers an hour, and that is the minimum speed, and it needs to be larger than a 125cc engine, and that's now where the Bajaj is sort of falling into that. I would not use it on the highway though, because it has a hard limiter of 70 kilometers an hour.
Oh, okay.
And I think to George's point, it did take the country by storm because people were saying that you can get this new car or quadricycle for the low price of 150 Rand per month. And for context, that's cheaper than a Netflix premium account. So people were kind of weighing, do you get Netflix or do you get this new car? Is that just a myth?
You can't buy it for 150 Rand a month. Please stop believing everything you read on the internet. 1,500 Rand a month.
Google is not always right, people. Go on to autotrader.co.za. You can believe Chad Lückhoff, not Google. He's absolutely right. I mean, where can you buy a car for 150 Rand a month, honestly?
No. And then, of course, you saw the things about insuring it for 12 Rand 50 or 1 Rand 20 or something of the sort. And this was just people hopping onto the bandwagon and just completely blowing it out. Of course, the agents that import the Bajaj Qute and that sort of stuff, their phones and computers, emails completely exploded with this, with people thinking, and many turned away because they're now disappointed that they can't buy a car for 150 Rand a month. And sadly, that's just the propagation of fake news and the likes that just gets people spun up in ways and it preys on their naivety, and it's rather sad. So that's why we're here. We're actually here to, tell the story. And I was reviewing it and I drove it around yesterday. I mean, I didn't like the hype around it. I'm not one to promote these type of vehicles. But when we sat with the importer and we spoke about it, he says it's not a recreational vehicle. It's not a consumer vehicle. It's a business tool. It is a delivery vehicle. It is a taxi service. It's a shuttle service. Think of all those massive estates and the golf carts that will cart you to the front gate or to the gym or wherever, and that type of thing. This will replace that.
Yeah.
This is going to work if you have a burger joint that makes burgers and offers delivery. You're delivering in a 5K radius.
Yes.
You're going to run it in one of those.
Exactly.
Any time that you would be tempted to purchase a delivery scooter, you would consider one of these.
Okay, this is kind of...
Yeah, okay, I suppose it's a business tool, but I suppose the benefit here is instead of the scooter, when it's pouring with rain, keep dry.
Correct. Yeah, it's completely enclosed and it will keep them dry. The thing is, it has seating, and they were telling us a story of one of their customers who came in and he bought one, and 2 or 3 months later, he came back and he bought another 2. And then a few months later, he came back and he bought like 4. And he just exponentially, he runs a fleet of over 20 of these.
Oh, wow.
And they are coining it. Each one makes over 1,000 Rand a day. And all he's doing is doing last mile
deliveries,
shuttle service.
Wow. Oh, shuttle service, not deliveries.
Shuttle service. He's doing a taxi service.
Yes.
So when the taxis come and they drop people, taxis, buses, trains are dropping people off at stations and depots and the likes, or at main roads, he's taking them the last 2 kilometers from that main road to their doorstep, and he's charging them. And then he picks them up in the morning at their door and takes them to where the taxis are. Wow. Instead of having to walk these distances, and he's absolutely coining it. He's operating it in a 5-kilometer radius area.
Yes. And
he's every week, he basically could go out and buy a brand new one with the money that he's making.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
So Chad, I had a question I needed to ask you. You go and have a look at Chad's Instagram account, because Chad kind of like sometimes is pretty. I'm not going to use the word cheeky, but I think it's quite comical. But you put a picture up of you driving this Bajaj, right? And It was a picture of Chad kind of like driving it with, looking as if you're the driver. So that's what the picture looks like. Go and have a look at Chad's account. You'll see.
A point of view image.
Point of view image, exactly. But what I was interested in was, what did hin hin puppy mean?
There's a meme running around that has a dog with a rather elongated face. It's a greyhound or something. And it's basically a very common Afrikaans sort of term from the racing crowd. And puppy, we're gonna, let's race, let's dice.
let's dice. I mean, I suppose that. So 0 to 70. What does this car do in 0 to 70, or do we even know?
No,
doesn't matter.
No, we're not really phased. I'll tell you what. Listen, I really wanted to hate the thing. I wanted to despise it, and I didn't want to, especially with my understanding. And I was also misinformed initially, thinking that this is now one of those vehicles that is being pushed on as a consumer vehicle. I didn't realize that this is actually geared as a commercial vehicle as such, and I wanted to hate it until I drove it, and then I found it absolutely intriguing and fascinating. So let me give you the rundown, and this will give you an idea as to why it is so interesting. It's because it's so absurd. It's so left field from anything that we're accustomed to. It uses a single-cylinder motorbike engine, only 217 cc's, makes 9.7 kilowatts.
Four-stroke.
Okay? It's a four-stroke. Okay. It's the first time that I've had to use a decimal point to denote a power output.
Well, 0.7 is roughly like 80% of the 9.
It's 8% of the power. It really is. So, I mean, that's going to be about 13 horsepower at best. 13 horsepower at best. It makes 18.9 Newton meters. George, it's not going to pull the skin off of a rice pudding. Okay? You're not towing anything with it.
I'm pretty sure that someone's going to try.
You show it a hill and you're gearing down 2 gears.
How many gears does it have?
It has a 5-speed sequential gearbox with a multi-plate clutch, like a motorbike. So the motorbike, I mean, George, we've ridden together, we ride bikes, and the controls are now opposite. So now you're changing gears, going 5 up through the gears with your hand and having to operate the clutch with your foot because it still has a clutch.
Oh, wow.
So that's a little strange, but you quickly get used to it and you blitz. It is super compact. And the only time that I actually struggled with it was maybe 1 or 2 severe hills in here and around our office. We have some large hills here on the aptly named Hill Street. And there I had to take it back to 4th gear, 3rd gear, and then it would only do 40 k's an hour up that hill. But it's a 60 kilometer an hour road and it's a dual carriageway, so I can sit in the left-hand lane. I'm not really causing too much of an issue. But then I did hit a large dual carriageway that has an 80 kilometer an hour speed limit. And I realized this is essentially a highway for this vehicle. And once again, I moved all the way into the left-hand lane and just let everybody pass me.
And just tell me, was your foot flat on that accelerator most of the time?
Everywhere.
So it's a switch. Everywhere. It's a switch. Yeah. It's not an accelerator. It's a switch.
Let's just take what's behind me here, and let's think of how much you're going to be able to enjoy this vehicle on the commute.
Yes.
Are you going to be able to use all of that power?
No.
At any given point in time on the drive.
You put your foot flat in that and you're going to be up into somebody's boot.
In the Bajaj, I redlined it through every gear and ran it to its top speed limiter on the drive home. It's better to drive a slow car fast than to drive a fast car slow.
I've never heard someone say that. That is so true. Yeah. Better to drive a slow car.
So how much is it then?
This goes for 75,000. If you go and you chat to the guys, they will offer financing on it as well. It's going to cost either 1,500 Rand or 2,000 Rand deposit. And then it's 1,500 Rand a monthly installment. So they do offer financing on it. There is no Euro NCAP crash testing on this. It is SABS approved. But keep in mind that it's a commercial vehicle. It's not a recreational vehicle. Yeah, sure, you could use it. It has the seating, it has the capabilities for you to do. If you stay 10, 12 Ks away from the office and it's only in congestion that you drive, sure. If you're considering a scooter for that sort of venture, then you could consider, well, not one of these, but the Bajaj.
Yeah.
You really could. And it's not going to be too dissimilar in terms of monthly installments. Your monthly installments are going to be a lot longer to make up that 75. Running costs are super frugal. Unfortunately, we had to fill it up. It's got an 8-liter fuel tank, and that cost us 130 Rand to fill. So, I mean, but petrol price is petrol price. It's still 16 odd rand a litre.
Yeah.
But drive it relatively nicely, and you're going to get 2.86 litres per 100.
Wow. That is about what? That is about 20%. Is it 20% of a regular car?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, roughly 20%.
It is half of a economical diesel.
Half of an economical diesel. There you have it. So if you want half of an economical diesel. Two final questions, Chad. The first is, where is the engine, in the back or the front?
It is rear engine, like a Porsche 911.
So
and it sends power to the rear wheels, like a Porsche 911.
There we go. So, you have a slow sports car. That being said...
Lightweight sports car.
Exactly. That being said, however, so I'm assuming it's rear-wheel drive and you can drift it.
You can. If you actually go to the Bajaj South Africa Instagram account, they've shared a couple of videos, and there's one that is having an absolute whale of a time in the snow somewhere overseas, and he's sliding it around much better.
Lovely, lovely. All right, final question, Chad. Your score out of 10 for the Bajaj Qute?
I don't feel that I can give it a score, mainly because it doesn't qualify to be a car. It is a quadricycle, and to compare it against the likes of the other vehicles, I don't feel that I could give it a score. If you had to mark it as a commercial vehicle, it would score a 3 or 4, somewhere around there. It definitely has a place and a pertinent place, and it's really is a solution to a problem that we do have. As a regular vehicle on our usual scale, it's going to get a 1, and that's just because it's cheap.
But that's unfair. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We're not going to include Chad's score in the list of scores from our other vehicles because, we think it's just a little bit unfair on the Bajaj, to be honest, and maybe a little bit unfair on the other vehicles as well, who would never get that fuel consumption on any day of the week. Yeah. So there you have it, our expert journalist, Chad Lückhoff, joining us to talk about the brand new Bajaj Qute 2021 model. And if you want to go and have a look, go on to autotrader.co.za and go and look at Chad's expert review on the Bajaj and many other vehicles for that matter. Chad drives these cars. I wouldn't say, I don't like saying drives for a living. Makes him sound like a driver, which he's not. He reviews cars for a living. He tells us, in an independent way, what these cars can do, how they compare with each other, and could be very useful in you buying your next car. So go and have a look on autotrader.co.za, go to the news and review section, and you will find that we've reviewed almost every car in the last couple of years that has hit our market. Thank you very much, Chad, for joining us, and I'm very envious of you driving that car behind you out of that studio.
Thank you very much, guys. You guys have a great show, and we'll chat again soon.
See you later. Well, Wandie, what do you think?
I think it was a very honest review, honestly. I didn't expect it to do well, but I did get a lot of answers that people had asked me about the car today. So, yeah, I think you need to just understand what you can use it for, then use it that way.
Exactly. It has an application and a place. All right. So finally, let's get into our Ask AutoTrader piece. And everyday people send AutoTrader some motoring related questions, all things car buying and selling. So now Wandie and I will attempt to answer 3 of these burning questions. What's the first question, Wandie?
So the first question, George, comes from Luyanda, who's asking us, do you buy cars? So I don't think you specifically, George, but does AutoTrader buy cars?
Well, Luyanda, unfortunately, AutoTrader does not buy cars. AutoTrader is a marketplace that offers a platform for buyers and sellers to meet, but we do not buy and sell cars. So the answer is no. However, you can use our platforms to buy your car, obviously, or even to sell your car. It's a very, very little known fact that AutoTrader has a couple of channels where you could go and sell the car that you want to sell. The one platform is get a quote from dealers, or should I say get offers from dealers. We'll offer your car to our dealer network, and that will be a competing offer from probably about 100 dealers. And then the second way is a product called Sell It For Me, which we hold your hand, we help you with the paperwork, we help you vet the buyers, and we do some of the work for you. And then the last way is the traditional way, which is sell it yourself, where you take the risk, you put up the ad, you deal with the buyers, and you sell your car. So those are the ways that you can buy or sell on AutoTrader. Next question, Wendy.
Next question comes from Baba Sado, who says, I am in Zimbabwe. Can I buy a pre-owned car from you, AutoTrader?
Well, Baba Sado, you may buy a pre-owned car off autotrader.co.za. Be our guest, but you're probably unlikely to get finance unless you have a local address, local income, or not even necessarily local income, but you have to be legally registered here in South Africa to probably get finance. And if you buy the car cash, I suppose you could export it from South Africa to Zimbabwe.
100%. Okay, and the last question comes from Ukutagawa. Will I qualify if I own 3,600 and the car costs 2,300 per month?
Well, Ukutagawa, I don't think so. I mean, at an income level of 3,600, there's a very, very slim chance, probably no chance, that you'll be able to afford the 2,300 Rand a month car based on the bank's criteria. The banks place, varying installment caps, but it's around about 30% of your income that they like to see. So if you really think about it, 30% of 3,600 Rand is going to be about 1,500, just below 1,500. You can buy a Bajaj.
You could buy a Bajaj. That is true.
Go buy a Bajaj.
So you definitely can, but it's going to put you at a disadvantage. Is what she's saying.
Yeah, well, I don't think you're going to get the 2,300 Rand a month installment through the banks.
Okay.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of our show, unfortunately. And my name's George Mienie, and I've kindly been joined by Wandile Sishi as usual. See you next time. Cheers, Wandi.